Alrighty, so welcome everybody. We're excited to have you here this evening. I'd like to thank our panelists for taking the time out of their busy evenings to be as part of our Aerospace Engineering Career Exploration Night panel. This is a 1-hour panel and it is being recorded. As the moderator, I will start with a couple of questions directed to all of our panelists. Panelists, I will use your name so you know the question is directed toward you. If you would like to pass on answering a question, please feel free to say pass or add or agree with someone else's statement. Students, the attendance list will be given to your ASU 101 instructor. Using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, type career-related questions for our panelists. You can ask your own questions or please feel free to use the questions from your workbook. Related questions will be grouped together as one question. If the question is directed to specific panelists, please include their names in your questions, and please feel free to type in your questions now. Our Q&A monitor will read your questions shortly. Panelists, if you could please, take yourselves off mute and turn on your cameras, and let's go ahead and begin. So the first question is for all panelists. To help the undergraduate first-year student audience know a bit about you as they formulate their questions, please give your minute or 2-minute professional tell me about yourself pitch, including how your formal education is used in your current or previous roles. And let's go ahead and start with, Garrett.
Oh, cool. Hey everybody, my name is Garrett Rand. I graduated, well actually I was born and raised in Arizona. So I went to ASU as a natural choice to go there and I loved it. I majored in aerospace engineering and graduated in 2021, so just last year. Since then, I've been working at Honeywell full-time on cockpit avionics and flight control. So when you walk into a plane, you see all those buttons, that's all me. When I was in college, I loved to keep busy. I did a lot of clubs and a lot of internships. I built rockets, I worked on research spacesuit textiles for NASA, did internships with avionics, internships with manufacturing and all sorts of stuff. So it was a busy 4 years, but it was a great time. At Honeywell, I'm president of the employee engagement committee, and our job there is to kind of take new hires and make them feel welcome and integrated into the Honeywell community. So in that capacity, I plan parties, plan networking events that gets everyone together and talking, and so it's a great time here as a new hire. The things that I learned from school that I apply to my job every day, certain classes like controls, aircraft controls, I use every day. ASU 101, believe it or not, I use things I learned in that class still. Engineering profession, later classes you'll take. A lot of classes are surprisingly relevant. So yeah, I'm hoping whatever I say today will help at least a few of you in your time at ASU.
Welcome, Garrett. Larry?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Larry Davidoff. I graduated a few decades before Garrett. In the 80s, I arrived at ASU thinking I was going to be an architect with a civil engineering degree. Back then, there weren't a lot of programs with a 4+1, but ASU was one of them. I learned probably pretty quickly that architecture wasn't a career path. My interest had waned, and I was already accepted. I was a dual major, so I was already in the engineering department, what became Fulton Schools. So by default, I became an engineer. My story, and I like to tee this up for students out there. I see there's almost 200. There's some of you that probably are laser focused and have a passion and a target for what you want to do. And there's probably some of you that think you're good, know you're good with technical or analytical or science, but you don't quite know what your career might look like or what. So I'm here as one of those individuals that figured it out as I went. and had a great career. So a little bit about my career. I'll work backwards. I've got 35 years in aerospace and defense, a couple of those in aviation, working on heads-up displays in the cockpit of C-130 advanced aircraft and other systems on board. But the bulk of my career has been in space and the space business, which I learned was a passion and something I just loved. So I've been fortunate to work on GPS satellites. There's at least 12 satellites that I've been accountable for working on that you're using right now on your laptops, phones, and ATM machines. Probably used dozens of times a day. I've worked on communication satellite systems that are used for human relief and defense. The most exciting part of my career was probably the earlier years. I worked on the space shuttle. I worked on the deployment of the Hubble telescope out of the shuttle bay on orbit. I've worked on some really exciting missions. So in a summary, my background, even though I graduated with a mechanical, I did a couple of years of that hands-on. Most of my career has been in what's now called systems engineering. And so what's relevant from what I learned way back when, I'm on vacation for those of you, with the Zoom background. I'm joining you from sunny San Diego, but I was by the pool today thinking way back, what do I use every day? Well, the great thing about an engineering degree is, first of all, is problem solving in the engineering process. I use that every day. There's not a day I don't go to the office that there's some problem that I don't expect pops up, and I have to solve it with either myself or with a team. Also, analytics and analysis, plots and understanding how to read data and quickly ascertain information. Engineering economics, engineering, business of engineering is what engineering is about, right? We build and we design and we support systems that are, whether they're for profit or not. So engineering economics, I remember, was hugely important. And then lastly, given that I'm a systems engineer, project engineer, program manager by trade now, just the general understanding of all those disciplines you take a little, you dabble in electrical, chemical, computer, software. I use that knowledge every day to understand the products I work with. I lead. So that's it. Thanks for having me. I have a lot of experience. I look you out there, the 187 students are our customer today, and I look forward to helping. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. And then last but not least, Salar.
Hi, I'm Salar Simai, and I want to start by saying I'm sorry I don't have any video. I'm still at work. They don't allow cameras where I work, so sorry for that. Yeah, my name is Salar Simai. I'm a aeronautical engineering manager at Northrop Grumman Space Systems. I went to Arizona State for my undergraduate studies. I graduated not too long ago in 2015 I was a part of the honors college program at ASU. I graduated with aerospace engineering and physics. Then I went to Purdue for my master's and PhD in aerospace engineering. And last year, when I was in grad school, I started doing some research work. I got involved with some research work for Northrop Grumman, and I've held different responsibilities since then. With NG, I've been a systems engineer, I've been a GNC engineer, guidance, navigation, and control. I've done different types of analysis, thermal and structural analysis for different systems, underwater systems, underwater missile systems, satellites, and recently, since December last year, I've had the responsibility for one of the advanced interceptors known as a GPI, Glide Phase Interceptor, which is a counter hypersonic interceptor program. And I'm happy to be here and answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Salar.
Yeah.
So this question is for all panelists. Please tell us one piece of career advice or career observation you'd like to ensure our students, who, reminder, just started their ASU education a few weeks ago. So let's go ahead and start. Let's start one more off. Larry.
Yeah, just piggyback on my intro. I think it's important to remember, or I guess there's a role for every one of you out there in some engineering career, whether it's industry or academia, public service. So I guess my advice is take a deep breath. You're a freshman, you got a ways to go, but what I've learned in my 35 years, and especially through my own journey, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, is if you align your interests and develop skills that are aligned with those, and accept challenges to grow, there's a spot for you somewhere that'll make you extremely happy. You'll be a high performer, contributor, and anyway, that's what I've learned. There's a role. It's that message of diversity today, which is true, which is there's value for every one of you somewhere out there in engineering, and engineering is a great degree, regardless of what you think you might be doing with the future. It teaches you how to solve problems, how to think through critical thinking, and everything runs on technology today. So I guess to summarize my message is there's something for all of you out there. You're early in your four plus years there, and don't feel stressed that you have to know exactly what job you're going to fit into when you graduate.
Thanks, Larry. And then we'll go with Solar.
Yeah, I would. I think that was on point. I don't have a lot to add to that. The only thing that I can think of is the biggest skill set that I feel like I've learned in college that has helped me throughout my career is the critical thinking. Because anything else, you could learn any sort of like programming languages or any sort of technical skill sets. You could pick that up if you give it some time. But critical thinking, I believe I had a critical thinking class at ASU, which I still use all the techniques that I learned in that class on a daily basis.
Awesome, thank you. And then again, definitely not last but least, Garrett.
I would say don't neglect extracurriculars and soft skills. I think, well, what I appreciated probably the most about ASU is that it's so big and it's very saturated with things to do. So as a freshman, it was overwhelming trying to figure out what clubs I should do. But once I figured that out, then I could hone technical skills. I could hone communication skills to leadership positions. And those things really get you far. And GPA, a good GPA gets you somewhere, but really a beefy resume and really good communication skills and soft skills are kind of what drive past the finish line. So those are some skills that I picked up in college.
Thank you, Garrett. So we'll go ahead and open it up to student questions. I know we have a ton of them out there, so thank you guys for your engagement.
Andrea, do you mean to start?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Henry, and I am on the outreach and recruitment team with the Fulton Schools of Engineering. And you all are asking some amazing questions, but a theme that I'm seeing is if our panel can speak to internships in aerospace. Students want to know when they should start looking for them and how to prepare for effective internships.
Just kind of round robin. Is it okay if I start, Garrett and Solar?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, so hopefully we'll get some good advice. But this is obviously one of the most popular questions that we get, right? Mentoring and panels like this. First, start early, right? I know you might be thinking companies hire for senior internships or junior internships, but right now, these days, companies hire, I know Boeing and others at high school, and I think Northrop, but there's programs in that pipeline all the way from high school. That's one aspect of starting early. The second aspect of starting early is you might think, well, I'm not going to get a job that starts till May or June. So I'll start looking after the holiday season in January. Most companies have their internship job postings up on their websites in November, December, some and even in October. So now's the fall is the season to start looking. Second, do your homework. So part of what I didn't mention in my bio is I have a balance of business I have an MBA, and I've got a balance of new business and business development and technical marketing, along with technical skills. I like to use the analogy of you're your own product, and you have to market yourself, and you need to start that today, right? So the first, there's two parts of that equation: understanding what you have of value and what you're going to develop in your college career, but also what the market needs. So start now with industries or companies of interest to you, or if you don't know, start really big with a big circle and narrow it down, and start doing your homework. You'd be amazed at what's out there open source on the internet, right? Every company has every job opening. You can Google what contracts they're after and what technologies they're investing in. So start doing your market research so that you can align your interests and your vision of what you want to become with those of your prospective customers and hire companies to hire. And then lastly, I guess I got two more quick points on that. You got to network. Right. I think it's obvious, it's today more than ever, right? It's what Garrett said, it's soft skills and communication. Start now, all right, with people you meet on campus, with professors, with LinkedIn, with people you meet here, the alumni chapter. Start networking and find individuals that are in companies and industries that you're interested in, and find people that actually hire for internships and ask them what do you look for and what skills do I need, and in your top questions. And then lastly, and then I'll hand the mic over, you've got to step out of your comfort zone. So a lot of what I just told you may be uncomfortable for you, at least it was for me. I was very shy when I showed up at ASU. I wouldn't speak to a stranger in a fast food line. I didn't mention I was born with some severe hearing loss in my ears. My bones were fused. I didn't get that addressed till after I graduated. But my point is, as you're sitting there today in ASU 101 and as a first semester freshman, it may be scary to reach out to people with decades or 2 years of experience and cold call or email or LinkedIn contact people, but just do what you're comfortable with already, probably on social media with your friends, and employ that in this part of your life, and you'll have a head start starting now versus waiting.
You're not leaving anything for me to say.
All right. Somebody, Laura, you guys graduated more recently. You've probably been through the internships more recently than me. Mine was 30 something years ago.
Garrett or Solar, do you have anything to add to that, or it was a very thorough answer?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll say this. Yeah, I agree with everything that was said. And start as early as you can. Networking is the key. I mean, every time I started pursuing a new opportunity was because of the networking that I had done. That's number one key. Soft skills, those are important. But one other thing I want to really touch on is, if you go through this and then you end up with like no internship opportunity and you graduate, don't feel like you're missing a lot. I mean, I didn't have any sort of internship experience when I started. So it's always helpful. It'll help with with you getting to know what you want to actually do. It helps you to get a better understanding of what the working industry is like. But it's not, if you end up going throughout this process and then you don't get an internship, don't feel like you're not going to be able to get a job or anything like that.
Yeah. Those are all really good points from both of you guys. I would only add, well, first I'd like to stress the networking importance. I don't think people underestimate networking a lot, and networking is certainly something you get taught in your classes, something you practice. So I'd encourage everyone to go to, if you're in a technical club, go to technical conferences, social clubs like SWE, and other kind of like engineering community clubs. They have conferences as well. Larry mentioned cold calling. You could email people and just say like, hey, my name is Garrett Rand. I'm interested in what you do. Could we set up a call? That shows initiative. It shows enthusiasm. That's something that people really look for. So when you get your name in circulation from people in industry, then you become a pretty powerful candidate when you're applying for jobs.
But do we have time? Can I piggyback on what Garrett and Solar said real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's two things there. One on what Garrett just said is, as a freshman, the advantage you have of starting networking now is you don't have the pressure of like trying to reel in and secure an internship right now. Why that is an advantage to you? Because you can do what Garrett just said. You can ask for someone to give you 15 minutes of their time, whether it's in person over coffee or a Zoom, phone call, whatever. Most successful people are, want to help others, right? They've been helped. So as an early career student, not having that pressure that you have to like pull the trigger and ask for an internship or actually even talk about internships they have to offer, but learning about the business and the industry and what does it take, and asking them for other contacts, it allows you to be authentic and not feel pressure. The other thing I like to mention, I think Solar mentioned it. I don't know why. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of engineering jobs open right now in the country, but for whatever reason with the statistics, there may not be an internship for everybody. They're just timing and who you're looking for and who's looking for who. That said, if you boil down why is it you're getting an internship? You're developing hands-on skills, right? And competencies. You're getting references from managers and coworkers. You're getting more experience on a team. If you don't, I would say challenge yourself, and the goal should be secure an internship. If you don't secure an internship, or in advance of that, create your own internship, right? Volunteer, create some project for some nonprofit or one of these campus clubs, create a project, or reach out to a company and ask if they have a problem to solve. There's dozens of ways you can accomplish the intent of an internship and build your resume without actually being hired as an intern, if that doesn't happen.
Awesome. Thank you. That was all great feedback.
Thank you all. We'll go on to our next question. Again, kind of a theme of questions. Outside of aerospace engineering coursework, can you recommend any electives or other courses at ASU that you took that were helpful or go well with aerospace engineering?
I guess that'd be a question directed to all of our panelists. So Solar, I know you've just recently graduated. Do you have any feedback on that one?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, 2015 is recent, but it's not. So yeah, I would say critical thinking was a big one. I didn't want to really pick like on one of the like technical topics, right? I mean, I've had like numerical method, for example. That's one of the things that would definitely help with your technical works, especially when you're new to the industry. But on a bigger scale, I would say critical thinking, or even like writing like that. If you spent, so I believe I had a class, it was history of science or philosophy of science, one of those that we had to do a lot of writing as a part of that class. I think it was a 394, honors 394, if it still exists. One of the things that really I got from that was I improved my writing skills throughout that whole semester because I had to do a lot of essays. And believe it or not, the day will come that you probably gonna get away from dealing with MATLAB, Python scripts all day, and then now you have to write status reports for executives that it just takes a different set of writing skill set for you to be successful. And I think I still to this day, sometimes I go back and I look at some of the work that I had done in school to still improve myself from that. So I would say soft skills, yeah, writing, critical thinking, those are the important ones that I can recall.
Thank you, Solar. Garrett, do you have any input in that?
I think when I was in college, I tried to supplement my curriculum with things that I thought would make me more well-rounded. And so that was the first box I tried to check. The second box was that things that I just kind of wanted to have fun with. So I remember taking rocket propulsion along with aircraft propulsion concurrently, and rocket prop was an elective for me. and I did that so I could learn both systems, and that was kind of for the technical box that I was checking. But I took history of aviation. I took a class on how to how to take walks, and it was like a kind of like a body movement class. Things that would just interest me, and things that had me, like Solar said, have a lot of discussion posts and a lot of writing. That's what I try to look for. So soft skills really is what it comes down to.
Awesome. Thank you, Garrett. And Larry, do you have anything for that one?
Yeah, I'll add three quick. There's one class I wish I would have probably gotten more value out of, which was physics. You know, the class you take in the big rooms there, a lot of students. Generally, when you're freshman or sophomore, what I learned during my career is, I mean, it's kind of obvious. Hopefully, most of you are smarter than me, but physics is everything, right? And so if you learn physics, if you learn the basics of physics, you don't have to become a physicist. But if you get a solid understanding of physics, that'll do you well in industry or research, because whether you're electrical engineering or computers or hardware or whatever, everything boils down to physics. Second, I mentioned engineering economics earlier, and related to that, because when I was at ASU, there was a very narrow selection of those kinds of classes. Now ASU offers engineering management curriculum, which I think you can take as electives, but engineering economics and some of those engineering management courses that allow you to be dropped into a work environment and understand that every day and every hour and everything you do, whether it's on a CAD model or analytic model or design, is part of the profit and loss and the business of creating value for customers. And then understanding how work is organized and executed. You'll learn some of that on your classes there in co-curricular activity, but understanding how industry does it, you can get a lot more of that now through what ASU offers than when I was there. So those would be some key tips to add.
Thank you, guys.
Excellent. Next question, I think, again, for whoever wants to answer of the panel. What industry changes do you anticipate in the future within aerospace?
I would say, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to suggest one of you folks that are more recent graduates have a different perspective. Go ahead.
It seems like a lot of things are moving towards automation. So if you have the chance to practice some sort of software skill or coding classes, I would say pursue that, because there's a lot of opportunity to, even if your job isn't software, you could automate some sort of process that you do manually. So I would say the future of aerospace looks more automated. So coding, I think, is the way to go down.
Okay, so I completely agree with that. Automation, AI, and every aspect of engineering, that is the future. But I mean, I guess I could speak a little more specifically about my world of things. So I'm the majority of the contracts that I support, they're all defense contracts. And based on some of the like new developments that you see by our adversaries, you could tell that the future that we're headed is more technology in the hypersonic world. So that could be hypersonic interceptors or anything else that has to do with that technology. So high speed airflow, high speed aerodynamics, hypersonic guidance systems, onboard trajectory design. There is a variety of different challenges with computation on board. So there's a lot of work that's being done there. Thermal protection systems for high temp materials, composites. Yeah, so these are some of the things that comes into mind.
Yeah, I'll add to those. I think some of the trends, or a couple of key trends, are systems thinking, which ties to the system engineering and multidisciplinary, right? So even though you might be someone interested in getting technically deep in something and maybe getting a job as a fluid dynamicist or thermal dynamicist or structural analyst, you're operating in on a system that's, these systems today and products, they're very complex, right? And so decisions you make and trait studies and analyses that you influence affect everybody else in the other disciplines. And also companies and organizations, want to do more with less. So the more, the more multidisciplinary understanding you have, but also, the more white space or tasks you can pick up adjacent to your kind of core day to day will make you more and more valuable. The other, I guess, piece of advice there is everything today is built on electronics, right? Even if it's a mechanical device or a pump or whatever, a refrigerator, right? Everything's smart today. So even if you're an AE or an ME, the more you understand the embedded systems and the computer science and the electronics that are integrated into that hardware and the interfaces between hardware and electrical, that's definitely not going away. That's getting more and more important by the day.
Excellent. Thank you all. This question might be for Salar. As you mentioned, you did receive your graduate degree after ASU. But there's a lot of questions that students are asking about. Would you recommend graduate or professional school immediately after graduation, or do you recommend getting some work experience before going on for an MS?
I guess it depends on I guess person to person. It has to do with what you want to do in life at that point. I don't think there is a right or wrong answer, right? But at the same time, I'd like to say, at companies like us at Northrop Grumman, a lot of places are very supportive in terms of helping you to go and then pursue a graduate degree. A lot of times they actually support you financially in order to do that. So maybe financially it makes more sense for someone to start working and then get a master's or even a PhD part-time, right? That's I guess if I'm speaking about my own situation, like when I think about it in my senior year, all I want to do, I just want to go grad school. Like that was my driving factor back then. But again, I think it's different person to person. So
Larry, I think you mentioned something about pursuing our 4+1 program back then as well too. Is that?
Yeah, I'll second what's largest said. I think it. I mean, there's no wrong answer, right? It's up to it's an individual thing, and it's also depends on what organizations you're working for. I got my MBA right after I started working at Lockheed Martin, my first year out of school, primarily because I knew I was going to get busy and distracted and different things in life, and I knew I was interested in at that time even the business of engineering, and so I just went ahead and got it out of the way. That said, I think there's a lot of merit to getting 2, 3, 4, 5 years of experience, hands-on experience, and then that provides you a couple of things. It provides you a window into what is it you want to dive deeper into, and it also provides you an opportunity to align that extra education and perhaps the company's investment in what's needed, in the organization, and for you to grow and develop and get promoted. So there's really not a wrong answer.
Yeah, I would agree with both of those. I had kind of the opposite experience from Solar, though. When I graduated college, I wanted to jump into industry immediately. So it really is person to person, and I heard pros and cons for both directions. I know people who've reached very high in the company without a master's. If your goal is to kind of like climb the corporate ladder. I mean, if I found a passion for like the weather radar out in the lab, then I would probably go back for a master's in some kind of electrical engineering with a focus in like signals and systems. So that's something that would come with 5 years of experience working with that device before I would just jump into it. You know what I mean? So So it really is person to person and depends on what your goals are. So I agree.
And I'm going to add something to what Garrett just said. While I was listening is the prior question about where is industry going, right? I mean, the rate of change and 3 to 5 years from now, or 5 to 7 years from now, the technologies and the challenges and problems that have to be solved are going to evolve and change, right? So giving yourself some time to let that play out a little bit is not a bad thing, right? Because if you get a master's right now, that body of knowledge is based on today and in the past, right? And so in the next 7 years, there'll be a new body of knowledge. Now, I mean, that's still a personal choice, but it's just something to consider given the world we live in today.
Thank you. And yeah, thank you. I think a follow-up question to that some students are asking is, what are the opportunities that are presented to an individual in aerospace engineering with a grad degree versus without a grad degree? Does that make sense?
I would, sorry, go
Garrett.
ahead. Okay. I would say it depends on what you got your grad degree in. So, and the way that I understand it is there's two different avenues. You can do a technical master's where you can get, like I said, like an electronics master's with a focus in signals, or you could do kind of like an MBA thing, like Larry. So if you take, depending on the direction that you take, if you jump into industry with a master's in kind of the business side, then you're afforded more of a career in the direction of like program management or something like that. But if you do a kind of the technical side, then you become like a functional expert in that piece of equipment at your company. Or at least on the way to those things. You don't just jump into that immediately, but going into industry with a master's degree kind of sets you on the course to a specific destination, if that's what you want. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess I'll add a little bit to that. I agree with what Garrett said. On top of that, I would say so talking about my own experience, first few years when my first few years at North Grumman, mostly I did a lot of technical work, and I think that was because of my technical background and having that graduate degree and coming in. And I was that functional expert, if you will. But I'm at the point in my career that I've gotten further and further like away from that. I think you're gonna write your own story. There's no right or wrong answer. It's graduate degree definitely helps and then puts you if you're looking for the right type of job based on your graduate degree, you're probably going to be doing something that's more related to the degree that you got, the time that you spent in grad school. But then after that, a few years after that, then you usually have the option. It'll be your choice of what do you want to do. Do you want to stay in that area, or do you want to broaden your experience and then do other things? And
I'll just piggyback on those responses. It's also dependent upon organizations have different cultures, and it comes down to the hiring manager, right? Because personalities and needs are different and those change. So I'll go back to what we were talking about earlier is do some homework on this, right? As a part of your exploring potential internships, find out which companies and which disciplines value an advanced degree or sooner in your career, maybe piggybacking on a bachelor's than others, and that'll inform your decision versus, I mean, we're helping inform your decision, but get some additional information because that varies a lot. I would say, as I mentioned earlier, I think you can Google it. There's literally, hundreds of thousands of engineering jobs open in the United States. I think students, I do a lot of mentoring at ASU and other schools. Students can get frustrated. Oh, I'm not getting a job. I'm not getting any bites. All these entry level, or there's less entry level. There's these 3 to 5 years experience. So I think you can do some homework on if you get a master's right away, what probability do you have at being able to capture one of those 3 to 5 year pool of jobs in addition to entry-level jobs? So that's homework you have time to do, right?
Thank you all. We're really proud of the diversity of our students within the Fulton Schools of Engineering. And this year we have, I think it's now close to about 8,000 international students from all over the world. And so we're getting some questions specifically from our international students. And I don't know if any of you can speak to what specific internships might be available for international students, and or what specific employment opportunities might look like for international students here in the US.
I can kick off and we can round robin. I think now, so I don't have any specific data I'm pulling on. I'm just my knowledge of industries and business. I think your target market there is more commercial companies, commercial aviation, or commercial companies that don't require U.S. citizenship for your first job. And there's a lot of that. I mean, even in the space industry today, a lot of the business is commercial based and private funded. So I think if you kind of do market segments of who you might look at and areas you might look at is start out and look into commercial businesses and businesses that provide opportunity for you.
Yeah, as far as I know, which I don't know a lot about this topic, but there's, as long as it's not in like the defense sector, I think you should be fine. But yeah, there's sections of Honeywell that are kind of like blocked off in their own little rooms, and certain, I mean, you can't, there's an information exchange that can't happen between those walls, but so long as it's outside of the defense sector, I don't think there's a restriction on that.
So I guess I mean I actually had a info session not too long ago. I think last semester at ASU, and this came up several times. Again, I agree with everything that was said. I'm sure there are opportunities or business units that they're mostly deal with commercial customers, but in my sector and my team, I'm a hire manager for my team. We don't really deal with any international candidates.
Great, thank you guys.
How about maybe a more lighthearted one? Can you tell us how you balance your work and personal life balance in a busy field? Maybe some techniques or ways that you stay healthy or stay sane in a maybe stressful environment.
I keep reminding myself. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, find some fun hobbies, Larry.
Well, Solar, why don't you go ahead?
I was just gonna say I remind myself 5 times a day to drink water. That's important. Water. But at some point you have to draw a line, because you could really this will be your life. And I know a lot of you guys are passionate about some of these projects that we work on, and you want to be a part of that one day. Once you get into it, your passion's gonna suck you in. You're gonna be a part of it, and you don't want to leave that. And the day will come that you end up spending, because it's a passion, it's not a job. You'll be spending, I don't know, 18 hours a day, and you don't even feel it. But you can't let that happen, right? So you've got to draw a line at some point, because work-life balance is important, and people burn out, and that's a real thing. You don't want to do that. And then you got to have hobbies. You have to have things outside of work that you like to do.
I'll comment. So given that I've been in industry for 35 years, I've seen myself go through a lot of cycles. I mean, that's going to vary, right? One thing that's common is that you're going to have periods where you have to cram, using an analogy for cramming for an exam, right? So you're gonna have times where you have to peak and surge, and then in those periods, it may be a little harder than other periods to balance. But what's important over your lifespan is you average out balance, right? And so you need to be very good at time management. For myself, I've been more creative and more productive this year, and I'm 59 today. Today's my birthday. I'm spending with everybody here. I enjoy doing this so much, but I don't know what it is. This year I've been more creative and more productive, and I work an 80-hour pay period. I've just gotten really good at time management and focus and delegation and leveraging the team. And then obviously I've got the experience of having seen different problems before, so I can solve, challenges quicker. But I'll tell you, I wish I would have had, more of those time management skills sooner in my career, because not only does that help you in managing your projects and your work, but it helps you manage the limited amount of hours you have every week. The other thing, I think today most organizations recognize the incoming workforce wants, a balance. That said, your employer, whoever it is, in whatever sector, is hiring you to do a job. And if that job takes 9 hours or 10 hours one day, and the other days it takes 8 hours, so be it. You have to go in knowing that you're going to have periods where you have to work hard. But I think it's, keeping a balance, having time management, setting limits, having expectations with your hiring manager. And then I think, as Andrea said, hobbies, we all have different hobbies and interests. And when you have things that are important to you outside of work, you'd be amazed at how it motivates you to get your work done within the time you'd like to get it done, which I think is what's happened to me this year.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add to that is to stress that work does ebb and flow, and you'll have lulls, but you'll have times where you're just reeling and spinning out, but that's all natural. But the important part is that you're constantly kind of working that management. But yeah.
But I want to piggyback on that. The flip side of that is it's awful to be bored at work. And I can tell you, out of my 35-year career, I can only remember that happening like one time, maybe a little bit a month or two ago for an hour. But as far as being bored at work for a day or more, I was working the space shuttle program, and I was working on a special project. And I remember, we got done ahead of time, and I was sitting around going, "Holy cow! Is this what career is going to be like? This is awful." You know what? That went away like 2 days later, and it's never happened again. So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I hate being bored at work.
They're great tips. Thank you so much. I think it was Garrett who mentioned his involvement with extracurricular clubs and activities while an undergrad. And so there's some questions kind of like, is there any specific clubs or activities that as an aerospace engineering major would be, benefit from? So maybe if you all could speak of your specific experiences as an undergrad, getting involved in student orgs and clubs, etc.
So when I was a freshman, my mentality for joining clubs was I wanted to join 3 clubs. I wanted to do one that practiced technical skills, one that practiced leadership skills, and then one for fun. I would say join as many clubs as you want early on, because before you realize it, school will start getting too hard and you'll lose time to join all these clubs. So when you're a freshman, it's the best time to do that. And on a secondary note, joining a lot of clubs early on will allow you to kind of like filter them down so you can retain 1 or 2 for your whole college experience. And those are the ones that you kind of become leaders in. So my technical club was Sun Devil Rocketry. We built rockets, we did rocket propulsion. And then by my junior year, I was a propulsion lead for one of the research teams. and then I was another team lead for my senior year. And then my fun club was called, I think it's called CC School over. I forgot what it's called for, but we took field trips to NASA facilities. It was awesome. And then I did a leadership club where I was the outreach coordinator for my freshman year, and I just talked to. It was like a community science club, so we went to schools and we did like science shows for kids. So I would say those 3 categories are good ones to kind of look for.
Very strategic. Thank you.
Yeah,
All right,
go ahead.
yeah,
Larry.
I'll go. So I wasn't active in any clubs. You know, I gave some insight into my story. I kind of fell into engineering and figured it out as I went. So I didn't have any target clubs, right? Because I was still trying to figure out what I was going to do with that engineering degree. My advice to you would be, you know, your prospective employers, and I think this kind of ties to a question earlier today on trends. More so today than decades ago, whoever's hiring you wants you to be a contributor the first day you show up, right? They have a job for you to do. They have work that's not getting done. They have product that needs to be done. I like the 2-prong, or what Garrett said 3-prong, but I'll use 2-prong. Pick a club or clubs over your 4 years there that help you develop, you know, hands-on expertise and use the tools and models and systems you'd be using in industry, and maybe even some deliverable products, so that when you interview, you can prove and substantiate to that hiring manager like Solar you're sitting across the table from, that you can add value on day one, right? I think, and so that could be, I mean, that could be, you know, there's dozens of clubs, right? So pick one, right? Depending upon your career interests. And then I think the soft skills, you know, maybe you kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? So if there's clubs where you can develop your leadership and soft skills as being a board member and making presentations, that's great. If there's clubs that focus more on developing the soft skills and speaking, presentation skills, collaboration, then maybe, you know, partner those. But I think those are some tips that I would offer.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, I'm glad. I feel like I probably, you know, had a similar experience to Larry. Not, I wasn't a part of any like cool club or anything. You know, when I was an undergrad, the only club I was a part of probably throughout my like last couple years of undergrad was the Milq Club. I used to go play pool. No other clubs I've been a part of. But again, as a hiring manager, I've seen like in my interviews, you know, I think the like when that comes up, you know, the reason that's a positive thing on, you know, in a candidate is because that tells me they've been active. Like it's like going to school and taking 15 credits a semester is not the only thing that they did. You know, it's either being part of a club or like having a part-time job of some sort, or, you know, being a double major or like something that tells me they're doing something extra than that standard curriculum that they're going through. That highlights them usually. That is the reason. If you're a part of the club, I think that's one of the reasons that, you know, you it brings you up in front of a hiring manager.
I like to springboard off that, talking about the work-life balance and the networking and connecting with managers. If you have the bandwidth to, you know, do a technical club and maybe a non-technical club, the pool club or you know, a club sport team or whatever it is, chess club, it doesn't really matter. You know, one thing about us being humans, and when you're going to be networking and interviewing with human beings across the table or on the screen from you, is connection and connecting, right? With finding common connections and building rapport. It's going to help your interviews go better because you're going to be less nervous. You'll be less stressed and more relaxed, but you're also connect with people across you. So, you know, it's not about how many technical clubs can you rack and stack, but also, you know, how well can you connect with people? And so doing things that are fun and, you know, that make you appealing to other individuals that have common interests or interesting interests. Believe it or not, that can be a huge factor, right? That's why people play golf or other sports and get hired for jobs or for business, right? It's not because of their technical resume all the time. Totally, I guess the right word is, fully.
Thank
Yeah.
you, guys. So we are at our 5 minutes left for today's panel. If you guys have any further questions, please feel free to use that Q button right now and go ahead and ask those right now. If we don't get to all of the questions, we will forward them to the panelists. And then also please feel free to save those for the mixer as well. So panelists, do you have any parting words of wisdom?
I just want to say that the next 4 years it's going to be a challenge, but I would encourage all of you to go at it optimistically and see what ASU is giving you and what Aerospace is giving you and kind of tackle it. And once you kind of like get like a bird's eye view of it, it becomes actually really fun. And I had a great time in my 4 years, all my clubs, all the research that I did. It was, I miss it. It's weird to say that I miss school, but I kind of miss going to school. So I would say enjoy it while you're in it and make the most of it. And come talk to me in my mixer.
Awesome. Thank you, Garrett. Larry?
Yeah, so this is one of my passions is mentoring. I'm the director of mentoring on the Fulton Schools alumni chapter, and I've always have several students and industry people in my mentor pipeline. My advice is seek a mentor, seek mentors, multiple mentors. Those can be professors, they can be peer mentors, they can be people you network with in industry, people you meet through these events, but leverage the experience of others. Find individuals that are willing to help you work through your adversities and prepare you. That's huge.
Thank you, Larry.
I guess my plug, the alumni chapter is here to help. So look us up, and that's what we're here for, to help add value to the student experience.
Thank you, Larry. And then Salar?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Garrett, I don't think it's a strange thing that you miss school. I miss school so much. I was even thinking about going back or something for a class. But I would say for the next 4 years, the important thing that you should keep in mind is you're there to learn, and you're there to learn the process of learning. That's the biggest thing, right? So if you don't really understand the equations, or if you do bad on a test, or you're not getting A's, that matters. Obviously that matters to some extent, but the most important part of it is if you could learn how to learn on your own, if you could learn how to teach something to yourself on your own, then you'll be successful. Some of the connections that you're going to make in your undergrad in those 4 years are going to be with you for the rest of your lives. So enjoy the time and learn as much as you can.
I want to have a go back, Andrea. There for those going to go back for another degree, there is something called homecoming and other ways to get involved with the school. I'll be out there on November 19th or whatever that weekend is, but that's my way of going back to school.
I like that. Well, on behalf of Fulton Schools of Engineering, I want to thank the panelists for their time and insight. We've all learned a lot of valuable information, including myself. Our panelists, as Garrett mentioned, will be at the mixer, so we hope you'll be able to stop by there and meet with them and take any unanswered questions there as well. So panelists, please navigate to the lobby and then to your mixer session. Students, please navigate to the lobby and then as well to the mixer part of the evening by selecting a session from the list of majors and names. The recordings will be available in a few days through your ASU 101 course. So keep an eye out for those if you're interested in hearing this again. So again, thank you all for your help today, and I hope you have a great evening.
How do we go to... Are you guys, and anybody still there? Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, how do I go into the rooms? What do I do?
Sure.
So-
Go ahead.
Yeah, so you'll leave this session and you'll go back to the lobby. And then you'll look for your session. They're sorted by major dash name.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
And if anyone needs the link back to the lobby, there is the link for that in the chat. And yes, you are good to leave. Again, if you want to participate in the mixer session, please feel free to head back to the lobby and choose one of those sessions. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate your co-hosting there.
Yeah, you're awesome.
Not as great as you. You filtered through all those questions I was going through. So thank you for that.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks, Adam. So for those of you hanging around, I'll be here for just a minute or two. So if you need the link to the lobby, it is there in the chat. Otherwise, you are free to go for this evening. Again, thank you guys for attending.